The Glock pistol is known throughout the world for its reliability and its durability. It has survived all kinds of conditions: mud, sand, dirt, water, and all other kinds of abuses that it has taken. YouTube videos are full of it being drugged through these conditions, and it has passed with flying colors in many of those videos, although there have been some videos that have shown some problems out there. I myself have encountered a few failures to feed on the Glock itself, but I do think it was primarily related to the ammunition. Today what we're going to do, in a controlled test as best as I can, I'm going to go out into the woods and I'm going to subject this Glock to some light torture testing, but ultimately some ridiculous, beyond extreme torture testing, stuff that I have not seen in other videos. We're going to bury this Glock and really cake it. But I'm not going to be gentle to it like they are in other videos, where they just pour a little bit of sand on it and pull it out and shoot. I'm going to bury this and use it as a shovel. I'm going to then see if it rocks back. There's only going to be probably a few rounds fired through it, but ultimately I want to know, will this gun clear itself if it is full of dirt, or will it pretty much seize up? Let's go find out. Most people are familiar with the structure of the Glock. They are a very simple gun, and there's not really much to explain about it, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time right now talking about it. We'll do a separate video on the structure of the Glock itself, but just to point out a couple features of its function. I also want to point out that the gun is clear and it is safe. Point out a couple features of it really quickly though. The Glock has a much simpler locking block than does the Beretta. It locks right at the breech right there, and it is a little bit different when you break it down. Pull the trigger, and then the slide just comes off like that. I am a little bit concerned about its reliability when it comes to looking at the rails, as they are very thin rails. And again, I'm only comparing this to my Springfield XD40, which I have as well. The rails in that gun are a lot thicker, and these rails are much thinner. And so I have questions as to, can it clear the dirt out of the way very fast? Now, I will say that the Glock is a much older gun, and that is important to note that this gun has quite a bit of a history behind it. So actually, this is probably a gun that will pass with flying colors, but we'll have to go find out. Overall, like I said, I would be probably nervous at first, but this gun has proven its colors over time, so we'll have to just kind of test it and see how it goes. I will point out, though, that the slide is relatively simplistic. Looking inside, though, as I pointed out earlier, see if I can focus it, you'll see the rails are much thinner than that on the Beretta or the Springfield XD40. There's not a lot of room for the steel rails as they slide through the slide. And I do have questions. Can dirt be cleared of that as well as it can be another gun? Now, my initial reaction would be probably not as well, but again, the Glock has an outstanding record being used by law enforcement, military, and civilians, and so I would have to think that this is going to prove itself. Let's go take it and find out. Okay, we're out in the woods, and we're going to test this Glock 21 45 ACP out, and to start off, let's just do a little control and see how it does with just a few rounds. What can I say? Like a Glock, functions flawlessly. But how will it do if we subject it to some extreme conditions? Let's go find out. Okay, we're going to torture test this Glock 21 45 ACP and see how it does. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load it up, and at this point on a lot of YouTube videos, guys are throwing their gun in the dirt and they're picking it up and shooting it. I don't think that has any bearing on the torture testing of the gun if you get dirt in it and the gun blows itself up. So what I'm going to do, and this may violate some rules I suppose, fingers off the trigger, I'm going to plug the barrel at this time, and this time I'm going to drop it in the dirt, pick it up, pull the barrel cleaner out, and it will clean the barrel out of all dirt. This way I can ensure that the gun's not going to blow up on me. It should not affect the reliability test of this gun, but it will ensure that my barrel will not get damaged by dirt. And we'll test it right now. Glock 21, just a simple test with dirt. I'm just going to cover it with dirt at this time. The gun is now completely submerged in dirt. At this time, I'm just going to wipe it off. I'm going to pick it up, give it a couple taps, and I'm going to clear the barrel. Make sure there's no dirt inside the barrel. Let's see how it does. Failure to fire. Notice at this time, the gun almost appeared to not go back into battery. So let's do a clearance check. I notice the magazine is not dropping free. It dropped free at that time. Okay, cleared one round. I'm not going to do any tap rack drills or anything, but let's see how it does. Okay. The gun is struggling to go into battery. It's not going in enough to where the striker will go. There's a lot of dirt. You can see there's a lot of dirt getting onto the side of the barrel in the slide, and I'm having a lot of trouble clearing that up. So let's see if I can get it to fire just a couple more times. The striker's not falling, so I'm going to clear it. I'm going to rack the slide a few times. Okay, striker is falling. Let's see how it goes. Okay. So it appeared that without testing or sliding the slide back and forth, it struggled. It wasn't going into battery. But to be fair, let's do that test again. But this time, let's give it a few racks and see how it does. Okay, we're going to try this again, but this time, if it fails to fire, I'll do a tap rack bang, and we'll see if it actually makes a difference. So, but I'll do it just as before. Finger off the trigger. We'll plug the barrel just to make sure that no dirt gets in there, and I can flush out the dirt that is in there. We'll put it on the dirt just like this, and then we're going to bury it. By the way, I did clean out the barrel of any dirt and debris that was in there, and as well as the slide prior to this take, so that any dirt from the previous test would not affect this test itself. So there it is. The dirt's in there. We're rubbing it around, just not too much, gently. The gun is fully covered. And this time, we'll pull the Glock right out of the dirt. And I'm going to give it a couple shakes, a couple taps. I'm going to pull the rod out of the barrel, and let's see how it does. Notice the magazine itself has actually, I don't know how well we can see that, and you don't have to get too close. I don't know how it will focus, but the bullet itself is actually lodged inside the magazine. And that surprises me because I wouldn't have thought there would have been a lot of dirt down the magazine. So notice the magazine is not drop free. In fact, it's got a lot of flies out here. I suppose I could be like the Winnebago man. Start cussing. I cannot get the magazine easily out without a lot of force. Okay, so to be fair, it fired one bullet and then it struggled. I'm going to give it a few more rats. Striker appears to be good. And let's go ahead and test it again. So I'll put the magazine back up in there. Let's see how it does. The trigger is sticking and the trigger is not wanting to fire. Well, it's reliable, it's sticking. It's not quite doing it as efficiently as I would have hoped it would have done. I do have an idea behind that as to what could be causing it, and this was my concern before. Not with the slide rails itself, but rather, if we look closely, just rack that and make sure it's clear. In the previous video, I tested the Springfield XD40, and one thing I'll note about this gun is the trigger is resetting itself a little better than the Springfield XD40. I do like that about this Glock. It's resetting itself much more efficiently. But one thing I will say that is different is it's getting stuck a little bit more, I should say more faster than the other gun. Here's one thing that may contribute to it. If you look in there, between the slide, there is a gap between the slide and the frame. That's just enough space that some of this dirt and debris is probably seeping in there. Now on the Springfield XD, that is not a problem because all the way to the tip of the barrel, it's sealed. I mean, it's not a perfect seal, but it's enough to keep dirt out and debris out. The M&P is even worse than this, and I don't have an M&P to test, but all the way, starting right at the locking block, all the way back, it's a very wide open space, much more than this Glock. I would anticipate that if we were to test an M&P, it would get a lot more dirt in the magazine and inside of the frame than, say, the XD would. This Glock, that's not too bad, but it's definitely more space than we probably want on a gun. There is a space up there, too, where the spring is at and where dirt is getting inside. Let's see how easy it breaks down. It hesitated a little bit, but it's coming off. And in a combat situation, that's what I would want, would be to break my gun down as fast as possible and be able to service my gun. If we notice on the inside here, there appears to be dirt caked against my frame rails. And it doesn't appear to be too bad, but it definitely wasn't clearing itself as well as I had hoped it would have. Nevertheless, I think in terms of doing a few tap rack bang drills, the Glock did prove itself in terms of reliability. Let's go ahead and do this test again, but really bury this gun. Okay, for this test, what we're going to do is do an extreme dirt test with the Glock 21. And in doing this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if my Glock will function very well as a shovel. Notice it is unloaded, and I'm going to see if I can use it as a shovel. Oh, dang it. It fell on the ground. Ah, right in picking my Glock up. Well, let's just pick it up here, and how much can we abuse it? I don't know. I will point out one thing interesting. This dirt is probably some of the worst dirt you can get in a gun. It's practically... it's very fine. We're in the glacial basin right now of North America, so this is a very fine sand. Deeper down, we've got some more coarse stuff, and it rained a few days ago, so it's all wet. So we've got all kinds of dirt here. I'll just kind of put this everywhere. We get some dirt inside of it. I mean, let's see if I can pour some dirt down in there, and right down there, and just kind of right around here and there, and then we'll just kind of push it into the wet sand below and cake it in there, and Then maybe cake the front of the magazine well. And then, I want to dig a hole, so let's use the back of the slide and maybe dig a little hole here. And, oh, look, we got a root. Dig the front of the barrel there. And we'll just kind of pull it out right here. That's a dirty gun right there. Let's see what we've got. Taking a look at it, the entire front of the barrel is covered in fine and the wet, coarse sand. The breech itself is completely blocked. And notice the bottom part here, the back of the slide, the striker, everything is completely covered. Inside, looks like the sand's falling out. When I did this test on the XD before, the XD, I remember a lot of people were having issues with the grip safety. This does not have one, but I remember the XD did not have a problem. But let's see if we can clear it just a few times, maybe shake it a couple times, and how fast can we clear it. If you watch my XD video, you'll see it cleared relatively quickly. Let's see how this does. It's hesitating. Let's see if I can shake the wet stuff off. There we go. And it appears it's in battery. But I can't get the striker to fall. One thing I'll make a comment on too is a lot of these grip plugs you'll see online, aftermarket grip plugs, people buy to plug that little cavity up there. And if you saw, some dirt's falling out of there. Is that really something you want to plug up? Well, for me, I don't want to do that. But other people, well, I guess that's up to everybody. Okay. Striker fell. The striker, okay, it wasn't resetting. The striker just reset, and it fell. My wife called in the middle of me filming this, so I have to go back to it. But I was having a problem with the trigger resetting, and it does appear now that it is reliably resetting. So that concern has been brought away. Let's do that one more time. Drop it in the dirt, and let's see if we can dig it through, and how fast can we clear that dirt out if we were in an emergency situation. So I'm dragging it through the wet dirt, using the back part. Hey, it actually works as a nice little shovel. Look at that. Bury that front part. Okay, that gun is dirty. Let's see how fast we can clear that out. I can't get the trigger to fall. Trigger fell. Put the trigger, okay, reset. It reset. Okay. I think we're back in business. Okay. It needed to be pushed in the battery. I think we're back in business. Let's do a little test. I want that chamber and that bore to be dirt-free. Let's see how it does. Glock 21 works great. I would say in conclusion, although dirt is capable of getting in there, this gun has shown itself to where if you remove it, and if you rack it a bunch of times, even with wet dirt and very fine dirt, you can clean it out relatively fast and get back into business. I like that kind of ability, and Glock offers that reliability. Okay, we're going to continue torture testing this Glock 21 short frame version, and this time what we're going to do is we're going to bury it in mud and see how well it does. Now this gun has been cleaned prior to this, and it is safety checked. And what we're going to do, though, is we're going to first create some mud. I will say the trigger is fully resetting as expected, and there is no problem. Like I said last time, I was disappointed at how easily dirt was able to get inside of the frame and able to cause a stoppage. But the Glock did show that as soon as you remove the magazine, give it a few racks, it was able to clear itself and reset the trigger relatively nicely. Let's see how it does if the dirt is really wet. We've got the best sand here to do this test. This sand is very fine, it's also very coarse. Makes for the perfect kind of test. But first, let's create some mud. Good thing my daughter's not here, because she would love to play in this. Someday she'll be old enough to come with her daddy and shoot guns. Okay, looks like a very nice place to put my gun. Let's go ahead and bury it. There we go. Bury my Glock in some mud. Go ahead and cake it in some mud there. Now, I am aware that some of you may say, well, why didn't I just put it in the dirt a little bit and maybe just put a little bit of mud on it, test that. I just don't have a lot of time today, I'm sorry. It's really hard to get out here and I just do not have the time. And there's a lot of videos online where people are just dropping it in mud, but I haven't seen a lot of people really just dirty the snot out of their guns, and that's what I want to do. So take this here, let's go ahead and put a little more water on it. Whoops. Just like that. And the chamber again is open. Oh, it's caked inside. Let's go ahead and dig it like a shovel again. There we go. Get some of that wet sand caked in there. I mean, unless you're a Navy SEAL and you fall off a horseback while you're on the beach, I guess, and at the same time avoiding bombs dropping or something, I don't know how it's going to get dirtier than that. If it can pass this, then I will say I am truly impressed by this gun. The Springfield XD40 has already shown itself capable of doing that, although it did need a lot of rackings to be able to clear it. So let's see here. Well, first let's see if I can get it to clear a little bit. Well, that's a dirty gun. Give it a few taps on a tree. That's what they're there for. No, I take it back. The slide lock was not clear. I've got dirt shoved up under the slide lock. Let's see if I can get that dirt out. I did not have this problem on my other gun. Let's see. Well, you wouldn't want to be in this position right now, that's for sure. I would also note that on earlier Glocks, they have a more flared out version of the slide lock lever. Maybe this wouldn't happen on those earlier Glock models. But I'm in trouble right now. If I'm in combat, I am not in a position I would want to be. Okay, let's take a break right there and see if I can. I'm not going to do anything more, but let's see if I can clear the dirt out of there. Okay, it's been several minutes. I cannot get that slide lock free. There is dirt wedged underneath it, and I can't push it down. And like I said, right now, it is going to be very difficult to get that slide lock. I never would have thought that would have been a problem, but that slide lock, with it locked back right there, got dirt underneath it because it's raised up, locking the slide back. Dirt got under there, and it's not coming out. Now, I can get it to go up and down, but I just can't get it to drop. I've taken the bore brush a little to it, stuck little things under it, and I can't get it. So let's see if maybe putting some water on it can help clear it out a little bit. Let's see if maybe just a little water will maybe help clear that. Oh, there it goes. It's clear. Let's not do any more, and let's see if I can get that to clear out there. So perhaps if I was on a beach, I could dunk it and get it to clear. Okay, it appears it's going into battery, but the striker is not. The striker's pulling the slide back. I can't even push it into battery. I would break the gun down at this time, where I would pull the trigger, then pull the slide lock down and pull it back, but I can't even get the slide forward enough to clear it. So I'm going to pour a little bit more water on it and see if this can help me clear this gun out. Okay. The gun seems to be going into battery, but the trigger's not resetting. Well, I guess at this time we'll test it and see how it fires. Bore brush. Okay, I'm not going to put that back in the mud. I think it has showed that the Glock cannot easily be cleared. I did feel the rails were not as much of a factor as I had thought they would be. The small rails still cleared the dirt okay, but the gun in general did have trouble going into battery and the striker function. Again, it seems to be going into battery. So with that being said, let's see if we can fire off a few shots and see how it goes. The gun is fully in battery. Striker did not reset. Magazine fell out. There is a bullet in the gun, and the striker is now reset. So let's try that again. Once again, it reloaded a bullet, but it did not reset the striker. The striker is not resetting and showing no signs of resetting. The problem is the last bullet. Okay, let's go ahead on this last test here and break the gun down. I'm going to take the magazine out, lock the gun forward, pull the trigger. The slide release is not moving like it normally does for me. It's stuck. That's one thing. I used to really like this about Glock, this tiny little slide release, because I'm really fast at breaking this down. The XD, the M&P, the Sig Sauer, I used to not like that because it has a big slide lock to it. But I now see the value of a big slide lock. If you're in a combat situation and you've got no fine motor skills and you've only got large gross motor movement, you're going to need a large slide lock to easily move out of the way. I'm not able, even with the slide back, there's no pressure on that. I can't pull it down. Okay, with my thumb I got it to pull on one side, but that's something I would not be able to do in the heat of the moment. Perhaps dunking this in water would help, but right now I just simply don't know. I'll try to clear it out, but if I can't, I'm going to have to take it back to the shop. There, got it. After pulling it back and forth, it hesitated. But let's see the inside for the first time. Okay, looking at the gun, there's nothing noticeable here on the slide, just a lot of grit. But as far as something to notice, a lot of sand caked in there. Now it's a Glock, I can drop it, right? This is the connector right there. This connector has to pull back in order to reset the trigger. And my trigger will get reset automatically by pulling forward. So you can see how the Glock works there. I'll be later posting a video at how the Glock fully works, but that connector needs to be able to come back this way, and I notice it's hesitating in doing that. A lot of sand in here. There's probably a lot of sand down by this crucifix-like feature on the trigger bar. But other than that, there's not really a whole lot of dirt in here. There's not a lot of space for it. But there is definitely dirt down by my slide lock, and my slide lock is not going down easily at all. That is a major flaw of the Glock I would throw right there, at least for possibly aquatic or sandy conditions, because I cannot clear that out very easily. And if I had gloves on especially, like a lot of people do in combat, that would not be easy to clear out. So I will say that is a knock on the Glock. But overall, in a conclusion here, this gun did function very well, especially given it a few times to rack it back and forth and clear the sand out. Is it overhyped as a gun? I'm not sure. That's for you to decide.